Thanks for joining us. It is 2:32 on Wednesday, September 11th. Never forget. And we are here with Matt Romagnoli to discuss IoT devices with Lou. Lou, I know you had some items to discuss, so I'll let you take it from here.
Welcome, Matt. Thanks for joining us. I had asked Matt to come on and kind of talk about our next topic, the Internet of Things. Not trying to put any pressure on Matt. Yeah, I don't. He's not an expert, but
Yeah, that's for sure.
understands the topic, and we've been talking about it for the past couple of days, and I feel like we've wanted to share our thoughts back and forth, especially get your opinion on the thing. So first, let's kind of just do some background, if you wouldn't mind, Matt. Everyone hopefully knows about Mike and I, but not you. So can you just give us a little background about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm up in New York. Known Mike for quite a bit, I guess, and last, I guess, 7, 8 years, kind of started doing like basic copywriting, basic straightforward copy, and kind of extended that into more uh, like a broader marketing approach. And obviously, a focus on copy and writing is kind of like my bedrock, and that's kind of always been my strength. But then, like anything, I think in this economy and how fast things move, added on other skills like design, photography, and was able to approach a niche with small businesses mostly, where I could offer them like a variety of services, and usually regionally, and sometimes even like I call it like hyper locally, where a business just in Nassau County looking to market to surrounding towns and stuff. And that's kind of where I made my bread and butter. Done a couple national campaigns with a few firms in the city, but yeah, it's basically what I what I'm up to.
Awesome, awesome. That sounds like pretty diverse and like everybody recently, ever-changing
Yeah, exactly.
professional settings. Like I said, we wanted to talk about the Internet of Things. So just in case no one actually knows how to Google anything, Mike, would you give us like just a quick overview of the Internet of Things, like the scope of our conversation?
Sure. So, IoT is basically the idea that you've got internet connected devices. So, you've got smart fridges, you've got smart stoves, and you've got a variety of different web connected items, including the Amazon Echo, Google Home, and stuff like that. IoT has been around for a while. There are a lot of different microprocessors out there in IoT. The Raspberry Pi is a pretty popular one. The Arduino is arguably the first mainstream microprocessor out there. You've got a variety, well, at least in DIY, you've got a variety of derivatives of the Raspberry Pi itself, not made by the Raspberry Pi Foundation in the UK. So you've got things like the Orange Pi, the Banana Pi, a host of Chinese knockoffs. You know how the Chinese love to adopt everyone else's IP. There are a lot of different microprocessors out there, and what's really cool about IoT devices is that they cross the bridge between sensors and web applications. So the Amazon Echo Dot, for example, is leveraging a microphone, which is a type of sensor, and the Amazon API to bridge the gap between what would otherwise be a text-based search to a more audio-driven user experience. So you're talking about voice to text, and for example, on a phone, but you can do all sorts of other things with sensors, like motion sensors and vibration sensors with piezos. Actually, if you go through Home Depot right now, through their holiday section, you'll see many audiovisual sensors for decorations. So, for instance, motion sensors and loud audio trigger sensors for like animatronic Halloween
Oh, I
decorations.
see what you're saying. So it's like a giant mousetrap lane where like
Yeah.
you just trigger one and then that triggers the next one, then that triggers the next one.
Yeah, exactly. They've got these spiders that jump down. They've got these dogs and cats that make noise. Uh, I do own a whole bunch of them.
I was gonna say, how did
Say,
seem like
sounds
real
like
specific research on it?
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so that's sort of your nutshell. And there are a lot of people who are trying to get into IoT. In particular, Amazon and Microsoft also offer IoT hosted platforms on Azure and AWS. So there's just some pretty popular services that are out there and are starting to grow, and will probably continue to grow as IoT devices and wearables begin sort of taking over. And one of the things we've been talking about is how other IoT devices like the Echo Dot, or your web connected refrigerator in Washington or whatever, washing machine or whatever, impact the consumer experience. And that's sort of what Matt and I were talking about when this whole conversation got triggered. And I said, we really just need to put this into a podcast because we're talking for hours here and not getting any of this documented, and my thumbs hurt.
Write it down. Yeah, it's interesting, and through my research, because I know the buzzword beforehand and what it meant and kind of the path that everything had gone down, but I didn't know how deep of a rabbit hole this actually is until a couple of days ago. No, weeks ago now, because I started this post-hurricane or pre-hurricane, and now we're finishing post-hurricane. But it is kind of crazy how much is getting connected. I've seen a few images of people mapping out their network in their home and just showing like everything that's connected to their Wi-Fi. And some people, it goes everywhere from, your basic stuff, your phones, your computers, and stuff like that. And then TVs get added, and then all of a sudden, then the thermostat's added, and then you got light bulbs, and then you got your dog's collar, and like all this crap that gets added onto your single network. And it's kind of crazy how everything's starting to talk to each other. And then Mike said, his stove is a smart stove, right?
I found that out. It was so strange. I've got a dual band router, so one day, a couple weeks after I got this new stove, rather than just connecting to the default, I tried switching over to my 5G band, and I was like, this is so weird. There's a Samsung network here, and I don't know what this is for. And yeah, it's for my stovetop.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they need Wi-Fi connectivity.
The reason why they have it, this is going to the light bulbs and even security and Nest thermostats and things like that, is so when you're away from home, if you wonder whether you've left the gas running or, you can turn it off.
No longer having to run home.
But to Matt's point about the conversation we were having a couple weeks ago as well, it's also so you can order replacement parts and things like that.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
I think that's where I think Mike set up a pretty good idea of where we've kind of come and the extent. Lou, you touched on that. IoT really is permeated everywhere into your home, or could be, depending on how. But I think the future is probably looking towards things like replacement parts, or even as far as maybe finishing the flour while you're cooking. And I don't know. That's kind of what me and Mike were talking about. Will that kind of go in a direction like that? Is that something people will eventually do, and then the whole aspect of voice search and whatnot? But it's definitely, there's definitely your basic functionality right now, whether you can turn your gas off, make sure your door is locked, adjust the bed of your partner that's snoring next to you or whatever. Because if you really look at the high end options on a lot of things, almost everything has that, at the higher tier things will have an option for connecting to your phone or whatever. So yeah, kind of where that will end up going, I think has a lot of potential, and maybe successful, maybe not. And I know we have some data and stuff to talk about that.
Well, that's kind of curious because I do that right now. I am the bridge of that gap for replacement parts. I just, anytime I run out of I don't know, like you said, flour, I just, hey Alexa, add flour to the shopping list. So right now I am that gap. But to answer your question, that probably is where it's going to go. You'll have a smart pantry. It'll be a sensor driven or something like that automatically refills.
You pull the last egg out, and it
exactly.
It either adds eggs to the shopping list or orders them for you. And to me, I'm not one of the paranoid security guys. And if you remind me later, I have something that's pretty interesting about one of the new Pi variations they came out with that'll block ads at the DNS of your home router. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know that I necessarily want my fridge, because the other side of that is, knowing all my habits or how quickly I go through milk. That's almost, there's a level of management in my own life I will never reach, and I'm not sure I need someone else letting me know, you're drinking too much milk, you have an increased rate of this or this disease down the line. I feel like it could really end up, you talk about a rabbit hole, really go deep. And I don't know personally where I stand on that yet, but I'm kind of glad to hear that you use the what was it, the Alexa?
Yeah, I have
for ordering stuff, because I've wondered how that experience is, and it seems
I guess I should clarify. I don't order it. I just put it on a list so that
Yes.
I have a shopping
Bree
list.
can do it for
Yeah. So Bree can go to the store and get go get it.
I want to interject with a couple thoughts, if you don't mind. So my thought is, I suppose it is relatively inevitable that the connectivity between IoT and e-commerce is going to expand, but I don't know what the likelihood of it is as a long-term commitment. And I know that sounds kind of backward and old school, and I'm sure I'll be wrong for a period of time, but IoT healthcare devices, for example, have been around for a while, where you can put a chip in your body to track your nutrient levels, and you can track insulin. And for people who are diabetic, they are more likely to adopt something like this. But the everyday person who feels as though they're healthy, the likelihood of them actually using that, I don't know how strong it is, considering that it has had a very slow adoption rate since it was developed, for over-the-counter use. And from an e-commerce perspective, I wonder what the likelihood is of adoption there as well, because I know that from a conversion optimization standpoint, it's always difficult to get someone to add a credit card to an application. I think that in the case of Amazon, they've benefited from that cautious and doubtful nature by dealing with customers that don't want to deal with another marketplace. So they're looking at it like, I already have my credit card in this marketplace where I can get pretty much everything. Why would I enter it somewhere else? It's not like many other places don't offer 2-day shipping. A lot of competitors are starting to offer 2-day shipping too. So you've got that sort of diminishing value add from Amazon Prime. But if you look at, and this is something that Matt and I talked about, which subsequently I turned out to be somewhat wrong about, the dash button. So Amazon already went through this process of trying to create these one-click purchase solutions where you put a Tide button on your washing machine. When you need to re-up your detergent, you hit the button and it orders Tide for you. You've already got subscriptions for this in Amazon. So we use subscriptions for coffee monthly, but they have these little dash buttons that you put on your items, and then you one-click purchase item for you. Not at all successful. The dash campaign, so to speak, the product itself was canceled, I think in March 2019. So Amazon looked at this, saw it wasn't working, and canceled it. They had another product called the Dash Wand, which was launched in 2017. And this basically was a barcode scanner device that you could use. It was basically the exact same thing. It did the exact same thing, but with one device. So rather than just one button per item that you wanted to order, like a Tide button on your washing machine, you had a wand that you could use to scan all your barcodes and manage your inventory of items there. If you've ever wondered whether or not Amazon was fudging the ratings of their own products, this bad boy boasts a 3.1 star rating. You scan your items and it stores them in inventory to your account for the same purpose as the button. And now 6 months after Dash Button's death, they're talking about re-releasing a new wand, which is the exact same thing, except that instead of using an IoT device to do it, I guess you would do it on your phone. So you scan your device, and so it's like they're not really releasing a new product, they're a new physical product, they're releasing a new application, so to speak. So you scan your device, and now next time you need something, you just do it on your phone, I guess. So I don't know what the technical specifications of it are, but I imagine you're using your phone with a barcode scanner app to scan the device with whatever ancillary supporting accessories are to be able to order those. And those accessories being I don't know, Tide for your dishwasher, or for your washing machine rather, or Palmolive for your dishwasher, or whatever it is that water filters for your water or whatever.
It's kind of like and me using the shopping list with Echo, but it goes straight into your app and it has a barcode scanner.
I don't really know the technical specifications of it, if it's using the mobile phone with a barcode scanner app or something. But the idea is that they were unsuccessful with the IoT Dash Wand and button, but they're relentless in trying to integrate it. So rather than having an external device, which I guess is maybe an impediment to the process, they'll try to integrate it with other devices they know that you already have, like Dot or your mobile app. So my question was like, if Amazon had so much trouble with this, what's the likelihood of adoption? And I guess the answer is, how capable is Amazon of changing human nature?
And I think that's, if you don't mind, Mike,
Go ahead.
kind of what it comes in. I don't mean, it's a little weird when sometimes you're talking about these things and you don't want the conversation to be too maybe like esoteric or philosophical, but is the adoption to something like the wand or the or Dash didn't really, I'd say, failed because they pulled it, but or maybe Amazon's adopting, or adapting rather, like, is it going to take like a cultural paradigm shift where we are just ordering our Tide when we need it versus going to the supermarket and getting everything we need at once? Like, because that's almost like a cultural way we shop in America. Is the supermarkets, you used to go and hand the guy a list and he'd pick everything off the shelf for you and come and give it to you. The cultural way is, the supermarket, you hand the guy, he would come and give it to you, then you check out and leave. And those went away as people wanted to be able to pick their own things, and a whole economy evolved around that. And now we're at a point where, is it going to be so, I don't know. Are people going to do that? Are they going to want to say either a voice command or, scan the barcode and have just your Tide or just your toilet paper or just, and for me, like when you look at the history of IoT, the healthcare example I think is good, but another IoT item that arguably, cars have been connected to the internet and we've been connecting our phones to cars for a long time. That said, we haven't really expanded that out too much. Even when like XM or Spotify comes with your car, you're not guaranteed to continue using that and sign up for it and keep paying for it. At the same time, there has been somewhat of a niche functionality where people obviously use their phones and the music they already have over it. So like, I think, and Amazon obviously benefited from already being a marketplace that I use and now being able to permeate into these other things. So I think if anyone's going to get it right, it would be Amazon, because they already have my credit card, because I'm comfortable ordering from there. So, I mean, it might be a matter of time before they get it right, or before they kind of just keep giving people and launching items before something clicks and people are like, okay, I guess someone else is using this, I'll use it too. It's really hard to tell, because it is a human nature kind of cultural shift that's going to have to happen for us. And I don't know, it's hard to tell when you have 1 day shipping or 2 day shipping, around the holidays or something, you're busy, you already went to the supermarket that week and you run out of X or Y. I could kind of see that happening and saying, oh, just let it show up tomorrow. Don't, we got stuff to do today.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's definitely, and this is kind of, I guess, the crux of what we were talking about. Like, are people really going to shift that kind of, modality of life where you make a list, you go to the supermarket, you get everything you need at once, you look at coupons, you look at sales, because that's another aspect too, right? I think as far as older generations go, where you look at the circular every single week without fail, and then buy, and that influences your buying directly. Are you, I think, so our generation is probably going to really take the mantle for using things like this, even if you have the sales on the Dash or have this, integration for the wand. You look at, look at some of the yearly sales and numbers and the customer ratings. At the end of the day, when Amazon, I believe, and I really I believe when they had announced the cancellation, that quarterly earnings year to year, and this is their total quarterly earnings, was down a significant amount. I think it was estimated to be at 556 a share. Yeah, I have it here. It was estimated to be 556 a share, came in at 522 a share, up from 507 a year before. So we're talking a jump of going up 15 cents versus going up almost 50 cents. And that was around the cancellation of Dash. And obviously, this is a huge company. There's a lot going on. So I don't know. It's almost surprising to see them take another shot so willingly. And when you had such a slow, I don't know, not that weren't proven wrong, like, the numbers aren't like bad per se, but at the same time, that's I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm not sure I see that many people going past making that list and going to the supermarket as of yet. Oh, did I lose you?
Sorry.
You're good.
You're right in the sense saying that it's definitely going to be a younger generation kind of pickup. I think that's true just with the nature of all technology, really. Um, but I think the point I was going to bring up is why they keep going back to it is because they don't want to be left behind. I think with other devices like Samsung, taking over your stove and fridge and stuff like that, there's definitely an adoption rate across the industry. It's not just, retail, it's also appliances and assistants like with Google and now Facebook Home, Google and Facebook Home, even though Facebook's really not that trusted yet. But I think they're also trying to play catch up, or maybe not catch up, but just trying to stay part of the pack.
Stay in the race. And I
Yeah,
think that's a very fair point, because you don't want to be the guy, outside the door and not let in when all of a sudden it clicks or it starts turning profits. I mean, to me, I was joking too. Are we, you know, it's like, all right, seems to be the direction things are going, and whether it is more of a in the phone as a will the wand be an app mic, or would you be able to assign it to any device, or can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know the specifics of this supposed reboot, if it even is a thing, but they've got a physical device now, and I suppose they're supposed to be replacing that with either like a mobile, phone sensor, barcode scanner app supporting that, or with a voice command on your existing IoT devices or something like that.
Anywho, so like, I almost wonder if, like, and I know sounds a little ridiculous, but I don't know if you guys had heard that kid who had tweeted out from his refrigerator. Did you hear about that?
yeah, I did hear about that guy.
So his parents took all his devices or whatever, and he ends up sending a tweet out like, I don't know if this is going to get out, but I'm doing this from my refrigerator. And I almost wondered if are, like, human nature, like, are we just going to end up using these devices for things like that, or would that be like a potential entryway? Like, will my stove just take a picture of the roast I have inside or the cake I have inside and like directly upload that to Instagram? Because often you find things adopted, people using them for the things that they continue to use them for, and then the other features can follow. So I don't know, like, I don't see that being so far out the realm of possibility. And then you could start tacking on other things behind that once you have people using this or that through voice or through an alternate device. So I don't know. It should be interesting to see. I mean, it seems like such a turning point, or like a crux about where things will end up going, and it's definitely something that has been on my mind quite a bit.
It is interesting. And like you said, we brought up some numbers about the sales for them. And here, I'm going to see if I can pull them up again real quick.
Oh yeah, so I pulled up the number of voice searches that are going to be used, or that were used, and it seems like Google is obviously the head of the pack because of the fact that you have to count all of the phone voice searches along with every other device, whereas Facebook and Amazon aren't nearly as much. But I don't know about you guys, but have you ever used an Amazon Echo search before? Voice search? Well, obviously voice search.
It's terrible. It's not like you ask it for simply like when a store is open, and it just doesn't work at all. And it tells you, this store was founded whenever. So I wonder, I guess one of the points I wanted to bring up is voice going to drive innovations into this kind of realm, or do you see something else pushing innovations? Like voice is obviously king right now when it comes to IoT. Do you see anything else possibly taking that head start, Mike or Matt?
Um, security and hackers, because that's the first thing IoT was really used for. I think Mike could probably expand on that a little bit more, but if you want to talk about like truly widespread, I think that was one of the big attacks going back, I don't know, a few years now. But he was able to use IoT. I mean, I think, oh man, that's like such a critical question with tech, right? Do you design for how you think the user will use it, or will the user end up using it in a way that maybe wasn't directly designed for? I have a feeling the human nature aspect of that will win out. I don't think voice is so outside the realm of our comfort that it might not end up being the one that, even though it was the first one and things have been designed for that. So kind of in between answer there. I know maybe a quote unquote non-answer, but it probably end up, it could be voice, but it probably will be human nature and how we use the devices moving ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's like an in between. I don't want to a non-answer, but definitely in between. The other thing I kind of wanted to ask you guys is, who do you think's winning in the IoT battle? I know like Samsung's kind of taken over the kitchen and all the appliances and stuff like that, and I know, but then like, how do you rank them against Google, who does like a different kind of thing? I don't know if it's fair to maybe that's apples and oranges. Maybe you just stick with like Google, Facebook, and Amazon, because they all kind of have like the similar product line, if you will. But who do you think's winning in IoT right now?
Yeah.
You want to go ahead, Mike, or?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely not Apple. I'll tell you that much. I think that. Well, I think Amazon's winning in everything these days, and I would venture to guess that uh, because IoT really is well. Let me put it this way: what's the value add in IoT? Right, the value add is either like simplifying your life or bringing you entertainment. And I know that sounds kind of ridiculous, but we do live in a society where um, we have a level of wealth, even at an extreme poverty level, that more middle class people and other do not. So it entertainment through like um, Amazon Prime, Amazon Prime Video, for example, is a part of every American's life, whether or not it's not a matter of affording it anymore. So I think it really has become a staple of humanity, just as much as eating food and breathing air and needing your household items. And so I think Amazon has cornered the market. Certainly, in comparison to Google, it's not even remotely competitive as far as consumer goods are concerned. I mean, Google obviously has a much stronger B2B presence. Even though Amazon has a marketplace where it offers, all these small businesses a platform, it's doing it also with the knowledge that um, Amazon might just go ahead and take their product at some point. But Google obviously makes a lot of their money off of B2B, and Amazon is very much more a B2C based company. And I think that in itself is indicative of how IoT is used in modern culture, because it really is predominantly for consumers. I mean, obviously you have IoT that services all sorts of different businesses, defense contracts, and things like that. But if we're talking about comparing Google to Amazon and Google Home and whatever, I mean, generally speaking, if you're dealing with a consumer-based product, the consumer-based company is going to win that. So I think if I had to say whether or not it's Google or Amazon, it's probably Amazon. And as far as Samsung is concerned in the dialogue, they're definitely they're further reaching. I mean, they're definitely B2B and B2C. They're definitely involved in a lot of other areas that Amazon and Google are not. But I think they're probably spread a little too thin. And I think that uh, it's almost like when you look at GE, or what used to be, um, Uh, they've got their hands in absolutely everything, but they're such a generic, brand name as far as, Samsung is definitely a sexy brand name, but they're generic in the perspective that when you walk through Walmart or you walk through Target or whatever, you expect to see Samsung on any given electronic device in any aisle you walk through. And
Mhm.
and so I think people aren't necessarily looking at it saying, hey, that's a Samsung device, even though Samsung makes fantastic devices and they're one of the best out there. I don't think they're looking at that. They're targeting Samsung devices for IoT. I think Samsung is sort of just including it in devices that they're purchasing for their home. I didn't purchase a Samsung range and a Samsung dishwasher and washing machine because I knew that Samsung made good appliances. I had no idea that they made household appliances like that. I got it because my wife really liked the way they looked and they were doing a really good job with their product, and so they're kind of just sneaking it in there. So who knows? Maybe a few years from now, Samsung will have completely changed the the um, the landscape and really pushed forward with products that have connected you to the internet without really your uh, uh, direct intention.
Mhm.
How about you,
Yeah.
Matt? Do you have any other points?
Yeah, so I think great points on the Amazon being B2C, and I think one thing's interesting. I can't remember where I read it, and or I don't know, it might have just been speculation. So don't this isn't necessarily like documented, but someone had brought up a really interesting point, and then we were talking about how like your refrigerator might have a sensor for when you're missing eggs. When Samsung got into the let's call it the home security market, uh, and they started doing your not just your doorbell with Ring, but the door handle so that it could be electronically controlled. Another IoT thing. People were recommending that, not recommending, but speculating that it's partially because Amazon would then collect the data on when you go in and out of the house. So if you're, exiting and you're locking your door and getting motion activated from Ring, they could be like, oh, he's, someone's left, and potentially get ideas for best delivery times because you're home versus not being home, but also like up at one more level, offer you services. So we want to offer you a home cleaning service, which is something I think they piloted in some cities. So they would know your habits to say, okay, we can schedule our cleaners for 2 o'clock and then you can come home at 4 and to a clean home or something like that. I think because of like kind of that permeation of Amazon, like, and Mike was saying how it's so ubiquitous to be like, oh, it's not a question of like, let me order that from Amazon, it'll be here in 10 days. It's like, no, let me order that from Amazon. And like everyone you're talking to will assume you get it in a day or two because Prime is just so ubiquitous to how we live. So I really think that almost on like kind of like not just that stance being so strong, but I think it's permeated so much that they're probably like on a data level too, really potentially maybe a little too much, but have such a grasp on the consumer and or potentially a grasp on the consumer and so many little intricacies that could potentially open a door for them. So yeah, they definitely, I think, by far have a stronger stance. That said, you know, I do think as far as the other thing you're touching on a little bit about Samsung, comparing Samsung might be better compared to companies like LG or a couple of the other guys doing smart appliances. Now, one thing that I do find interesting, I think the Google and to a lesser extent some of the other people who make home devices, I do think the Google Home, I'm not sure if we had numbers on that, but might be like at least in my mind, right? So I guess so. Yeah. Wow.
I mean, it
They
could be.
okay, 100 million devices. Google Home's got 3.4 billion in sales. So to me, like I guess for when I think of a home device, I do think Alexa or I think Google Home. Now, while that's not nearly as strong of a, because it's kind of just one thing and maybe your thermostat, at least as far as like your layman's thoughts of like, at like a glance of Google inside the home with IoT, I do think being able to, or being at the center of everything, where like the home device might be connected to everything else, does possibly give Google an edge, at least on like what they do best, which would be data and usage and potentially advertising, because that's another part of it. I think down the line, I don't know that your stove's LCD display display is going to show you ads or not, but I'm not sure that advertising is eventually probably going to creep into this some way or another. So I do think the companies that are making themselves able to connect with everything versus having like maybe potentially, like I know LG has like a smart thing, and it's supposed to be like their IoT thing that connects to your smartphone. It's like, I guess, an app that would install on your phone that LG things would connect to. I feel like is really going to cut you off from having some cross connectivity and being able to, like, it shouldn't matter what phone you have, and I should be able to connect to my fridge and my stove, even if they're different brands, or my thermostat or whatever. So I think Google kind of being at the center there with home, I think it's probably not a bad place to be from a B2C perspective. Obviously not as strong as Amazon, because Amazon has everything from my credit card all the way through to like purchasing habits, and now with food, and they're just more of a B2C vector, and it's much stronger. But yeah, it's pretty much kind of my thoughts on it.
Well, I do it to that point about LG in particular. I do know that LG does have connectivity with Echo for actually, I'm sorry, is it Google? I'll have to double check that. I know that they have. So originally we used to use like the Fire Stick, right?
Yeah.
And you could have Amazon Echo connected to that. But I know that the LG Smart TV, because we just got one, and I had to make sure that I wasn't just being listened to. But I know that the voice control on LG, they have like a default voice control, but it does connect directly to IoT devices for with the Magic Remote as well. But they also have they have connectivity without it. So if you were like to do the voice voice enabled, like okay Google, turn on this channel or whatever. I know that they're integrated with one of the two, and I thought it was Amazon. Let me just double check that real quick.
I got you here, Mike. I had brought up their site at the bottom. They do seem to have compatibility, and they frame it as a growing list of partners. So we have Google Assistant, Alexa, Amazon Dash, brand that I'm not, that might be Samsung Side Chef, and then in it, I do wonder how, I don't know, like, I feel like this interaction with IoT and how we talk about it being a little bit of a human nature and cultural shift thing, if I have to change it off of a default setting to connect it to the thing everything else connects to as soon as I turn the Wi-Fi on, that's probably one of those user interactions and user experiences that'll be a hindrance. Now, it might be you might be so used to things in a few years where you're going to do that. But like even my girlfriend, for example, doesn't go into places and ask for the Wi-Fi password. Whereas for me, when I go in somewhere asking for the Wi-Fi password, it's kind of like asking for the bathroom, because my phone is always connected to Wi-Fi. So, and I'm a little bit cheaper when it comes to my data plan. But, so like, I feel like that's probably like, it's a necessity to have that interconnectivity, but not having it on a default maybe might be one of those hindrances that'll probably just change by by the user's behavior. But it does look like they've got most of their bases covered by now.
Yeah, it looks like Google Google Assistant is the default. So
okay, there you go. I figured
would be winning that.
Yeah, so
I just would like to point out that both of you guys said that Amazon is definitely winning, but the only one with a failed product that we've also talked about. I just wanted to point that out. If you don't count Facebook, because I count that Facebook Home as a failed product. Anytime you have to have a slider that covers the camera, that's a problem.
I had a Google Facebook Home. I was like, oh man, I was like, that one didn't ring a bell. I mean, I do think so. right?
Yeah,
I do think being the first person in tech is one of those things where like we've invented this brand new thing, and it's like, okay, like, and we are, it's like cool. And meanwhile, and I always feel bad because I know how much work things like go into things like this. The developers at Amazon for like 2 or 3 years were so hyped, like this is going to be so cool. We're going to change things. Like this is awesome. Then it comes out and people are like, eh, So
That's
I
kind of
mean,
the rub of it, though. Like when you're creating products, it's like you know that's a possibility. They've also had more than one failed item too. They had that what's it called, the wardrobe one? Look, Amazon
Oh
Look.
yeah,
oh wow, yeah, I didn't even,
I
huh?
forgot about that.
Yeah, I wasn't even on my radar talking about this. I totally forgot about that. I
But
mean,
to the other point about Google, it's like Google Chromecast was solid until the moment that anything else came out.
Yeah.
that's an excellent point. I mean, and part of Chromecast, I think, this is a tough one, right? Because I was talking about how important interconnectivity was, and Chromecast, for the most part, at least early on, before people started saying, "Oh, you need a premium subscription to connect to it," or I'm thinking Spotify there, um, you know, Chromecast was great. Then I get Fire, which mostly didn't have interconnectivity, but had everything else I needed.
Yeah.
And the Fire Stick seemed to be the dominant go-to. And people said, "Oh, I don't want to have to cast it from my phone. I just want to be able to open my TV and hit Netflix." So that's a great example, I think, of where your convenience factor and ease of use, uh and I don't want to just like use a blanket statement like people are lazy, but it's not that, because I use a Fire Stick, like
But
convenience and ease of use.
that's what you're selling to. I mean, you're
Yeah.
trying to make it easier for them. That's
Hmm.
the whole idea. It's like the fewer steps you can give them, the better. And you know what? I mean, as far as the next phase goes, I mean, Fire is gonna be dead. I mean, I have no problem saying that. They're they're gonna have to transition into an app um, solution because have you ever tried to buy a TV recently?
Yeah,
I don't know how to break it to everyone else, but the only thing you can buy right now for next to nothing are smart 4K TVs.
yeah, yeah.
You can't just buy a 720p or 1080p
Basic
basic flat
TV.
panel TV anymore. It doesn't. Everything is smart TVs, and if you're upgrading your television, you have no more need for Amazon Fire unless the smart app on your television does not, or smart OS on your television does not support whatever application it is that you want to use. You know,
I'll even expand on that a touch more. I personally, smart TVs in the home. The TV I have is a little older, not a smart TV, but my cable provider provides Netflix. So as far as Chromecast and Fire utility go, pretty much non-existent. I know I get a couple more benefits of having the Fire Stick directly, but the large chunk of that use was Netflix. I do watch a couple Prime videos here and there, and then I use Kindle for reading. I wonder too, that makes me think that maybe the future IoT is going to be more like, in my head, I always imagined an accompanied device, whether it was the phone or your stove ships with a tablet that will then become your kind of base of operations for the home. Our new
modular
home,
approach.
our new home's going to be sold with like, this is your house tablet, like this is where you control everything. Every phone in here can connect to the Wi-Fi and then connect to this tablet or something like that. I could see the TV kind of taking a central part or a bigger role in that, whereas I'm sitting down uh in the living room and I just picked up a thing. I need more ice or something. I stole that off of one of the websites. Or just, do you need your thing to make more ice? I could see the TV really having a much larger role of interconnectivity. Preheat the oven to 350, and then I don't need to get up and interrupt my movie or show to start, cooking dinner. So
So
yeah, go ahead.
so does that mean that we should all be looking at Roku a little bit more? Because Roku at least had, I mean, that's an integrated solution into a lot of different brands of televisions. It's not like it's just Samsung's or just LG's or just Amazon's Fire Stick or what have you. Roku has partnerships with a variety of different television manufacturers, and it's built directly in, and it requires no use of Fire Stick or whatever. I mean, you also you also don't even need those things if you went with like a Plex media server, which most routers, or not, I shouldn't say most, but many routers are starting to deliver Plex media servers on the router itself.
All right, you lost me. I don't know what that one is.
Plex is like Plex is an open source interface for your media, just like Firestick, the Firestick application, but for your own content. So your own photos, your own videos, your own audio. If you're the type of person who torrents the crap out of things, you've got a media library of hundreds of videos. Now all of a sudden it's in an interface just like Firestick, and it belongs to just you, and it's streaming directly from your disk through your router on your private network. Better security, and you don't have to worry about not having the video that you're looking for, because if you could just download it and play it from there. I don't think that'll ever. The thing is, Plex being an open source media service, there's no marketing spend behind it, so it will never take over. Even though, as far as IoT devices go, having a media server directly on your router is friggin' awesome. But there's no media behind, there's no marketing behind it. So it's just the router developers themselves who would market it. And I don't think many people who are jumping for joy going, "Oh, this is the sexiest router I've ever seen." But it begs the question as to whether or not Roku should be in the conversation, because they've clearly taken the steps necessary to become an integrated device into televisions. And if what Matt's saying turns out to be true, where televisions really do become sort of a central hub, that's the house's computer, then maybe we should be looking at that.
So I really love what you're talking about there. And just to touch on the Plex Media thing, I do think 40 years down the line, your homes, and just to kind of throw it out in more layman's terms, how we all had iTunes that would host all my music on my computer 10 or 12 years ago, 15 years ago. And I could put whatever music I wanted, as well as maybe bought music. I don't know if Plex has that kind of, but that would be, Plex would do that for all my media, and probably do it through, but host the services themselves as well. So it could host like everything I watch or listen to in one central thing that is mine. I guess you could correct me if I'm wrong, but that would be a much more simplistic, I think, explanation.
Yeah, I suppose.
Go ahead.
I was just going to add, and I'll let you continue. Plex is, for as far as IoT goes, going back to the very beginning of part of this conversation with Raspberry Pi, Plex is really hugely popular among IoT developers, because it was really kind of the original method of creating a media interface on a really inexpensive microprocessor. And so, like, Raspberry Pi costs $25. The Raspberry Pi Zero costs $5. If you could put you put a little SD card in there, you put a 300 gigabyte SD card in there, and now all of a sudden you get 300 gigs worth of storage for videos and stuff like that. And then you can just download Plex onto the Raspbian operating system. You could download it onto a variety of different operating systems. And so it's been hugely popular with IoT developers. So it is available on a variety of different IoT products, not just routers. But it raises then the next question, which is like, okay, if the router is really controlling all of the bandwidth, what's stopping Amazon or Google from just starting to create routers that are smart routers with microphones built in and everything? Then instead of being the television, it's the router.
So, and this is I'm glad we kind of came, because this is what I want to touch on about the Pi device I had heard about recently. This is truly where I think we're probably maybe 30, 40 is a bit far, 15, 20, maybe 10 years out. But I do think this is where we'll end up as we see the evolution of things. We're seeing some game streaming service, things, utilities coming out, or services coming out, where you can sign up, and then I have full access to Ubisoft's collection of games. And then they all were motivated by Steam, who is looking to do like the central media console in your living room. I forgot what it's called. Maybe it's like the Steam Box or something. But these are all kind of, and in my own home, my cable provider, my main cable box is my main router. And that would probably be your first iteration, quote unquote, smart router. Granted, it kind of sucks. I'm not going to call my cable provider out by name, but not that great. I am in New York, so I guess you all could maybe venture your guesses. But so yeah, I do think down the line we will have our routers doing this. And what I just recently heard about was something called the Pi hole. And what it does is it blocks and correct me if I'm wrong or using the wrong terminology here, but I believe it blocks the DNS connection for you basically blacklist certain sites that your games or your apps go to ping for ads. So you can add a site that would be like Samsung.ads and throw in the TLD there for the upcoming blog post. But, often they have just a site where or I guess a library to pull ads from. In your game, when you load it, you get ads talking about things, talking about whatever, depending on your tracking and all that. And it pings a website or whatever, ping something to pull up an ad to show you an ad. So you block that at the router so you can still access the game. And then when the game goes to ping for the ads, the Pi hole connected to your router with some basic Linux, it kind of has like its own use command line, and then it kind of has its own graphic interface, very simple and basic. Add this blacklist, and it was on Linus Tech Tips somewhat recently. I'm sure you could just Google Pi hole, but really interesting idea. Super cheap. It was like an under $20 solution, like all in, I think. And we're talking like basic understanding of Linux. You buy a Pi, you buy, I think, Wi-Fi connectivity for the Pi, Wi-Fi adapter rather, and maybe like an additional USB thing, and then the software, I guess you buy from them. I think you can buy the whole kit from them too. And it's about like 20 to 30 bucks all in, and you're blocking all ads on any device you sign up in the home because it blocks it at the router. And you're seeing like innovations like that. You're looking at things like the Steam box. I'm looking at the cable, the router I have for my cable, or my cable box that's also my router. And I do think ultimately that's where we would end up, where your router is your home kind of hub. And by then, I would imagine voice would be fully integrated because I have it on my remote. But I do think, again, that's a perfect example where you have this kind of in-between device. Then again, I'm trying to search something on the television the other day by voice, and they have this set music channels, like it's like 100 music channels, and I was trying to put on like, it was like just like basic pop background music while I was doing some work, and like it couldn't pull up. It kept giving me like movies and shows about music, and we were kind of touching on a little bit too, like how are your search engines and your search abilities going to be able to, because we speak much differently than we write. And even, you could talk about power users being a little much better at search engines and knowing what words and stuff to put into it. I do think that's another kind of little aspect of it. But yeah, ultimately that kind of central hub of a router is where we would end up, or the smart router, or the, brain of the home. And I could even see that being like, maybe not built in because router technology will always kind of update. But once we're disconnected from like constantly getting our routers from ISPs or cable providers, I could see that definitely shifting. It would have to shift on an industry level, and then I think on a consumer level, because right now Plex was an early adopter power user thing with, if I recall, like Kodi and stuff back in the day. And it's still a power user thing, but it's also open source, like you said. So that I think would have to shift on industry level, and then it'd be like a everyday consumer thing. But ultimately, that's where we end up.
Yeah, I think it would have to shift also primarily because I don't think that Cablevision and Time Warner have the capacity to create something like that. To be perfectly honest, you have to wait.
I almost just spit out my coffee.
Let's be honest. They're not exactly the brightest bulbs in technology, and you're pretty much just waiting on. You're basically just waiting on Verizon.
Yeah.
And which means that a lot of lobbyists are gonna be in the way of that progress, as long as, especially in New York, when you're dealing with that whole situation, the spread of fiber has been so consistently impeded upon by people who are trying to protect Time Warner's interests. Now, I don't want to get into that, but
yeah, sure.
Certainly, you're right. It needs to it would need to be an industry change. And I know we're sort of out of time here, but I wanted to either now or maybe it's a later conversation, you guys tell me what your thoughts are, touch base on what Matt was talking about as far as like voice search goes, how that impacts content versus, text-based search. And the conversation that we've had in this office in particular was about just sort of like when you're dealing with different generational gaps as far as how people approach searches online or what have you. So perhaps that's a different.
Yeah, sure. And if we're running out of time, I'll just touch on it real quick. That was something I kind of wanted to get to today too, was how that, like, a little bit on the technical side, a little bit on the SEO side, a little bit, there's a lot to that to unpack. So I think probably more fitting for another conversation. But I've even found myself recently, and I used to think I was pretty good at searching for things. And when I would search for something, whether it was something a little maybe obscure or unique, or where you might have like, where I know I would get cross results, like things that were totally unrelated to like lyrics of a song, right? You could search one thing, you could search lyrics, and you might get like searches for things the lyrics were talking about rather than the name of the song you were looking for, or something like that, right? And I found myself now searching for things by using the actual question, because that's what Google expects most of the users to type in when they search. What is the blah blah blah, or where is the blah blah blah, rather than just typing that keyword name and like location, or that keyword name and the region, because I know that much, and getting the search results back that I'd want. I find myself, especially through voice, writing in the whole question, like, where is the blah blah blah, located. And I do think that partially speaks to search engines understanding language better, like understanding located versus location and stuff. And Mike, I'm sure you could, I'm glad we're not going to get into this, because I'm probably like half making things up. This is truly my experience and what I perceive through my experience. Versus like, so I don't know. I do think there's a lot there though. And it's very interesting. At least a couple times I've noticed myself like going back and researching it with like what would be the quote unquote example question from like if they showed it in a commercial, or like how my mom would search for it, like, so I do think it's pretty interesting, and there's a lot there.
By generational.
Yeah.
There's definitely different ways that people who grew up with search engines treat.
Know how to search.
Right. So people who grew up with search. Okay, now we're diving into this.
Yeah.
I'll say that as people who grew up with search in text format, people who grew up without search,
yes,
and people who grew up with search in voice format. Children who are able to do, voice search, are going to have a completely different sentence format.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But anyway.
Yeah. So sorry, Matt, you're going to have to come back on the show. So
yeah, I was going to say, me and Mike would go on for hours.
Well,
thank you for the conversation. It was, I learned a lot, and I think we came up with some good points.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, Matt. We'll have to have you on to finish this conversation.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Just kind of on the side, as I'm looking on our Twitter right now, we're getting ads for washers and dryers from Maytag.
Maytag's like, you forgot about me.
Yeah, Maytag's like, please group me in. So yeah, we'll have to have you back on, because like with many of these podcasts, they kind of go all over the place. But thank you for coming on to the show with us and talking to us about this. It was a really interesting conversation. And thanks for anyone that was listening in on it. And it'll be out on our feeds in the upcoming weeks. And we still owe you a few more that should be out later this week as well. So again, thanks to Matt, and thank you, Mike. And we'll be talking to you soon. Thank you, everybody.